Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today is Wacky Wednesday, and on Wacky Wednesdays we tell wacky stories and you decide whether the story is true or is it just a wacky story. You let me know in the comment section down below. But anyway, before we get into that video, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up, leave some comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to ring the little bell next to the subscribe button. That way you know every time I upload a new video. So anyway, the story I'm going to tell you guys today is the story of La Llorona. You could say La Llorona in Spanish, or you can say the crying woman in English. And this story goes back way to the 1900s. This is a story of a woman who was in love with a man. Her family chose a husband for her. You know, back in the days, your family would choose a husband for you. Someone who had money, someone who could take care of you. You know, they would try to pick someone from a good family, and you weren't allowed to choose who you fell in love with or who you were going to be with. So this poor woman had to leave the love of her life behind and marry this man that she didn't even know, because that's what her parents had chose for her. So anyway, she got married and the years went by, and eventually she had 2 kids with the man. She had a boy and a girl, and you know, they were happy. Even though, you know, she married him because of her family, she was happy. She wasn't in love, but she was happy. She was content. She was always home. She made his food. She didn't work. You know, he owned his own company, and they had 2 beautiful children, a boy and a girl, and everything was fine. Often the husband went away a lot on trips because, you know, he had his own company and he had to go do a lot of stuff. So the wife was often home alone with her kids, and she started noticing that little by little her husband came home less and less. And when he would come home, like, he was too tired to be with her, or he was like watching the game or doing something, but he would not pay her any attention. Like, you know, he would play with the kids. Of course he loved his kids, but it didn't seem like he loved her too much. So she got a little worried and she decided to start investigating. She had the neighbor who used to come over and babysit sometimes when she was gonna go out with her husband, when she used to go out with him, because now her husband wouldn't even take her to eat at McDonald's. But anyway, so she talked to the babysitter and she told the babysitter, I need you to watch the kids for me tonight because I want to go see what's up with my husband, because, you know, he's always out and I'm very worried, and you know, we have 2 kids. I don't want to throw everything in the trash, but I want to see what's going on. So the babysitter said that she would babysit and she wouldn't say anything. So she's still babysitting, and the wife followed her husband that night that he was going out. He said he was going to a meeting with some work colleagues and stuff like that, so she decided to give him a follow and see what was going on. So she followed him in her car very far from behind, and she ended up going into town with him, and he ended up going into this very, very fancy restaurant. When she went inside to see why he went into that restaurant, thinking, oh yeah, maybe this is where he was gonna have his meeting with his colleagues, she realized that her husband was there with another woman. She was so upset. She was so upset, and she didn't tell him anything. She just ran right back home. You know, she got in her car, she drove home, and she started to cry. And her husband called that night and said he wasn't gonna come home, that it became too late, and that he was gonna stay at a hotel. So she already knew what was going on because she saw it for herself, but she cried the whole night and she didn't know what to do with herself. And she cried and cried and cried and cried herself to sleep. The next day her husband came back, and you know, he ate, he changed his clothes, and he decided he was going back to work. So she's like, are you gonna have breakfast with me? You know, you weren't with me last night, this and that. And he said, I have no time for breakfast. I have a breakfast meeting. I can't do this right now. And he left. And she really was upset. She was really upset. So she decided, you know, to just leave it be, and eventually, you know, she would deal with it. At least she had her house paid for, she had her kids, and she didn't want to like mess up everything. So she kept on going with it, and more her husband got more and more detached from her. And sooner or later, he ended up telling her that he was in love with another woman and that he was leaving her. So she cried and cried and cried and cried, and he ended up walking out and leaving. And so that night, she decided in a bit of rage to murder her 2 kids, which were the only thing that he loved in the whole world. So she went to the kids' room and she got both of her kids, and she told them that they were going to go swimming. And she took them to the lake that was nearby her house, and she drowned both of them in the lake. And then she went back home and she wrote a note for her husband saying that she drowned the kids because she knew he was cheating on her, and that she knew they were the only things he loved in the whole world, and that now he couldn't have them or her. And she went back to the lake and she killed herself. She drowned herself. The story is that after she died, her soul stayed here on earth because she was so sad about what she did, and she regretted killing her children because she loved them so much that she was stood here crying and crying and crying. So every time she would see somebody else's kids, she would drown their kids because she was jealous or because she wanted those kids to become her own. So the story is that you're not supposed to go looking for anybody when you hear the llorona crying. So that's the story of La Llorona. If you hear her crying in the night, if you hear some cries from a woman, don't go looking for who it is, because she might take your life and she might take your children. Anyway, that's the end of this story. You let me know if you think this is a true story or if this is a wacky story. I will let you know tomorrow in the comment section. I love you guys so much. Thank you guys for watching, and I see you guys in my next video. Bye.